doesn't have to be. We can do it.
Okay, would you all please rise for the invocation?
And remain standing for the pledge, please. Now we pray. Father, thank you so much for another opportunity to come together and meet as a town in official capacity, and that pray that your hand of blessing will be on the time we have together here, that you would grant us all eyes that see and ears that hear and understanding hearts, that we may conduct the town's business in a wise and productive manner. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Having had an opportunity to review the agenda, are there any changes, edits, or is there a motion to accept the agenda as written?
Yeah, the mic's on.
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as written.
I'll second that motion. Madam
All in
Mayor.
favor?
There you go. Aye.
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 Where's John? What happened to John?
I think he just stepped out.
He went to get his.
Okay. Can you approve the agenda? Can you say aye to the agenda?
Aye, we're
The
complete.
agenda stands approved as written.
Sorry.
Thank you, that's perfectly all right. Well, thank you all for coming, despite the thunderstorms, which we needed the rain, certainly, so we appreciate your coming out in the rain. I would just like to talk about one thing, and that is COVID in our state and in the whole United States. And we are not able at this point, technologically, to both stream the meeting when we have people here live and also have it available by Zoom. That's just not something that we can do right now. So for right now, we will have, as long as we can, we will certainly have the meetings in person. So we appreciate your understanding of that. You certainly can look at the live streaming afterwards, but we're not able to do the Zoom and in person as well. I would like to ask that everybody be really cognizant of the fact that though this is a reemergence of COVID, and we've heard so much about the Delta variant and the Lambda variant and the Kappa variant and all those different variants, but the fact is it's a real fact, and we are having a strong uptick in the number of cases in North Carolina of COVID, and our county, Rutherford County, is listed as a high transmission county. So to that point, the CDC guidelines have a lot to do with whether you are vaccinated or not vaccinated. We strongly encourage everyone who is not vaccinated to take advantage of the fact that you can get vaccinated in the town of Lake Lure, both at our local pharmacy or at doctor's offices. There is no charge for the vaccination at our local pharmacy. You don't even have to have an appointment. You can just walk in. They would prefer you make an appointment just for your own ease and knowing that there'll not be too many people waiting in line. But it has been proven that that is one of the greatest deterrents to people contracting COVID, and that is to be vaccinated. However, we do know even for people who have been vaccinated, and clearly people who are either in a high-risk category, old people, or people who are immunologically challenged, may certainly contract COVID, this Delta COVID, even though you are vaccinated. So we ask that you be prudent in what you do, and the CDC's suggestion is that you use face coverings if you are in public meetings, particularly where you know people are not vaccinated. There are no particular rules other than that now, so I just ask everyone to try to make sure that you and everyone you know is as prudent as possible so that we can deter there being any, reemergence of the COVID and the conditions that we had last year. Okay, the next thing we have on the agenda is the public hearing. Shannon, do you know what that's for?
No, we don't have one.
There is no public hearing, so we won't do that. The next thing we'll do is the town manager's communications. I'll turn that over to Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to remind the board that sent you a notice May the 6th by email to let you know that I'd planned to retire this year, December 1st, and there was a follow-up letter, May 5th, that basically gave you a little more of a formal notice that I would be retiring at the end of the year, December 1st. So we're quickly moving forward toward that date, and so, can you guys hear me?
I still can.
What about now? Okay, so I'll just repeat. So just want to remind the board that I sent notice to you May 6th, giving you my retirement notice, and also there was a follow-up letter that I sent to you May the 10th, basically articulating the same. So we're moving quickly towards that date. And just as a reminder to the board. Second thing I wanted to announce is that we have hired a human resource customer service specialist. It is Jennifer Duncan. She is the local branch manager, so she starts tomorrow. That will be her first day working for the town of Lake Lure. Third thing I wanted to mention is just give a light introduction to some folks that we've asked to come and speak to us today about the dam replacement. They're going to give you an update as to where things are. The first person that's going to speak is George Eller, engineer with Dam Safety. That's DEQ with North Carolina. He's going to talk to us about basically how the current dam does not comply with current standards. He will be followed by Jonathan Pittman, also a PE with Schnabel Engineering, and they have been working closely with us on the existing structure as well as beginning to set the stage for the replacement dam. And then last, they will be followed by Laura Creegey, who is our grants procurement officer, and so she has been working to secure grants and helping us with communication at the state and federal level to work on appropriations for the dam replacement. So with that having been said, I think Mr. Eller is first, unless you guys want to offer a little more by way of introduction.
Hello. This is working? Okay.
It is.
Mayor Pritchett and Shannon, commissioners, I want to thank you for inviting me up to speak to you today. Always glad to get out and take a look at dams and talk to dam owners and try to help any way we can. I want you to know that we are trying to help you as much as we can. It's a thorny problem that you've got, but we're going to do everything we can to assist with that. This is basically, this is me, George Eller, State Dam Safety Engineer. I'm with the DEQ, Division of Energy, Mineral, and Land Resources in the Land Quality Section. Dam Safety Program, so I'm the head of that program. And our mission is to review plans for new dams and for repairs of old dams. So we're going to be deeply involved in whichever way you guys go. We're going to have to be involved pretty heavily. I just want to speak to you a little bit today about your dam and basically where you are with it and things that we can do. This slide here is basically it's the promotion, it's the advertisement. This is about the dam safety program. We have 6,000 dams on our inventory in North Carolina, and over 1,500 of those are high hazard dams like Lake Lure Dam. We have the second highest number of high hazard structures in the nation in North Carolina, second to Texas. We also have the second highest number of high hazard structures that are in poor or unsatisfactory condition in the nation, second to Georgia. So a lot of our dams are low hazard as well. You can see that there's 50 or so with coal ash dams, so you guys don't have much dealings with that. But most of them are earth embankment dams, and most of them are privately owned. So, a little bit about Lake Lure Dam. This is the basic stuff off of our database. The hazard class is high, which you know. The size class is very large, so it's one of the largest dams in the state, at 124 feet in height. It was constructed in 1927, so it's pretty old. It's 94 years old. In that era, the useful life of a dam was considered to be about 100 years, which you're approaching. The dam is in fair condition, based on the work that Schnabel's done evaluating it. It has some problems, which I'm going to get into here in a minute. It does have an emergency action plan, which is good. Emergency action plan is required by law and is a very useful tool. If you do have an emergency, you're really going to want that. The inundation extent, if the dam were to fail, I've got a few numbers here about what would happen if the dam were to fail. It'd be 9,000 acres inundated, stretching across 4 counties and into South Carolina.
George, did you say 90?
9,000?
9,000.
Yeah.
9,230 acres in 4 counties. 12 roads inundated, some pretty deep. The population at risk, which we've calculated based on some work that we did at Demler, 129 people in the day and 105 at night. Now that's based on basically a sunny day breach. So during a flooding situation, it's probably going to be much higher. Deficiencies. You can see a picture there. How's that showing up?
It's good. We see it. Yeah.
It has inadequate spillway capacity, so that it's potentially the dam could overtop during a big storm. It'd take a pretty good sized storm to do it, but it's possible. If that happened, then there's a good potential that you would lose support on the downstream side of the dam and it could wash out, leading to a failure. There's a monolith instability problem on the spillway monolith. It doesn't have a high enough factor of safety. It's a structural deficiency. There's a seismic weakness. The dam is very slender. It's only about 3 feet thick at the bottom. And there's 7,000 pounds per square foot pressure at the bottom. It's a series of shells, concrete shells, that are supported on buttresses. It's an elegant design, but it's very slender. And for that time period, it's pretty amazing design, but very efficient with material, which leads to the seismic weakness because it doesn't have a lot of robustness in a earthquake. So seismic is going to be a problem. It doesn't have a reservoir drain, which is required by the regulations, other than going through the powerhouse. There's some seepage and leakage at the lift joints. You can see from the picture there's some efflorescence going down the inside of the dam. That's where seepage is coming through. and when it evaporates, it leaves a calcium carbonate precipitate on the surface there. There's some concrete spalling here and here on it, and has exposed some of the rebar, which is then beginning to rust. Your EAP, your emergency action plan, is about 4 years old, and it needs to be updated. Those are supposed to be updated every year. Also needs to be exercised. In a situation, you don't want to get into a situation where you have an emergency and you don't know what to do. So what you do is to have a tabletop exercise. You should do that probably about once a year, where you get all the players in the room, representative of the town, the police, your local emergency manager for the county, and for the counties downstream, dam safety, maybe state emergency management, and get in a room and say, okay, we're gonna simulate what would happen if we had an actual dam emergency. And say, who's gonna do what, who's gonna call who, and you get the whole call tree down, okay, so that everybody understands what their role is in an emergency. And so you don't have to figure it out in the moment. When the time comes, everybody will already know what their role is supposed to be. Also, it's not required by law, but it would be a really good idea to have warning signs and barriers at your spillway in the lake. There was recently a tragic accident at a Lowhead Dam that resulted in 5 deaths from going over the Lowhead Dam in a boat, in a raft. That's a big danger for that particular kind of dam, where you have a large weir, water's going over the weir. It creates a roller, and if you get into that roller, you can't get out because the water keeps pushing you back into it. Keeps rolling you over until you drown. There's also a danger for spillways, although the drop is a lot bigger. If you do end up going over the spillway in a boat, it can be tragic. There was a recent incident over at, I believe it was Lake Adger, just in the next county, where a boat ended up stuck on top of the spillway. And it's really scary to see somebody in that situation. So I'd like to try to encourage the town to put up some signs warning boaters off of the spillway and away from the dam, possibly even a barrier of some sort, floating barrier. Try to keep people from getting into that situation. So dam failures, that's really what we're all about. Try to avoid dam failures if at all possible. Dam failure, breach, break, dam break, burst, collapse, characterized by a sudden, rapid, uncontrolled release of the reservoir. So you can see there that on the left is the St. Francis Dam in California after it failed. Funny thing, that this dam was built in 1927 as well. It's exactly the same age as Lake Lure Dam, except it failed in 1928. So it didn't make it. This particular dam was the pet project of William Mulholland, who was the head of the Los Angeles Water Department. At the time, it was his pet project, and it ruined him. He was a broken man after that. So I was looking for a picture of a concrete dam that had failed, and I happened to come across this one, and I noticed that the dates were similar, so I thought I would show you this one. That's the kind of power that the water in the reservoir has. 431 people died after that dam break. Emergency action plans, like I said, they're very, very important. Run for it is not an adequate emergency action plan. So, the owners, the dam owner is responsible for getting that together, making sure that it gets put together. It has to be submitted to dam safety. Also, it's reviewed by North Carolina Emergency Management. So we jointly review these. And we will help you put together, get you the right information to what your local emergency manager is and the phone numbers that are required and things like that. We also have a format that's available. We try to keep all of them in the state kind of the same so that the emergency managers don't have to relearn a whole new document style. They are considered sensitive information, and they're required for high and intermediate hazard dams by law. I thought I would show you a little bit about your inundation map. This is the wide view of it. You can see Lake Lure up there in the upper left, and all of that blue area is area that would be inundated if the dam were to fail. Took a little bit closer view right up nearer to the dam. You can see all those red lines are roads that would be inundated. There's quite a few of them. And some of the yellow lines show how long it takes to get to the peak of the flood. Only an hour or so until the peak of the flood. The flooding would start much quicker than that. But you can see that it's pretty extensive. There's a lot of roads in that area just downstream of the dam. This table came out of your actual emergency action plan. It shows the, can you see the cursor? See the cursor? This column here is depth of water from the road deck. And there's a lot of roads there starting closest to the dam and going further away, and shows how much flooding there would be. Rainbow Creek, US 64, McOwenbin Pass, Rock Springs Church Road, Clark Road, River Road, NC 108, Grays Road, Union Road, 74 Bypass, Cox Road. But the thing that jumped out at me the most was where B, US 64, the depth of water from the road deck is 44.5 feet deep. So the road would be 44 feet underwater. That is a worst case scenario. But that's a lot of water. So there's a lot of houses in that area. So I just wanted to impress upon you the potential severity if the dam were to fail. This is a little document. I have some copies of this if you guys would like to have some.
That would be nice, thank you.
The FEMA puts out, it's a pocket safety guide for dams. Help you, understand a little more about what dam safety, some of the terms that we use and things like that. Things to look for. I wanted to hit on the enforcement process. Right now, the dam is not in the enforcement process. The first step there is notice of inspection. Now, we've been inspecting that dam for a long time. The last few inspections have noted some things that, deficiencies. And so that's kind of the first step. It's like you get an inspection and we note something is wrong. The next step is the notice of deficiency, which is an official notice that these are deficiencies that need to be fixed. And sometimes there is a deadline associated with fixing the particular things that are wrong. These are usually deficiencies that are serious, that threaten the safety of the dam. So right now, you're kind of in between the first and second steps there. If the notice of deficiency doesn't do the trick, then we have something called a dam safety order, which is a legal document that has the power to compel the dam owner to make the dam safe, either by fixing the imminent threat or taking the dam out of service. That's when the Attorney General's office gets involved. It takes a while to get there. So you guys are a good ways off from that. If that doesn't work, then there's injunctive relief, and that's where we go and we get an injunction and we take control of the dam, and the state will breach the dam, remove it from service using state funds, and remove the dam. So that's a pretty serious step. You can see there, that picture is Wood Lake Dam, where we actually did that. That's the breach that was designed by my colleague here, Schnabel. So after we remove the dam from service, then we go back and we recover the cost from the dam owner. We're trying to. In this case, we have a lien on the property to try to recover the $1.2 million that we spent removing the dam. So, my contact information, if you ever want to get a hold of me. The email address doesn't show up very well at all on that, but I've got some cards too, so I'll let you guys. There's an 800 number there. If you have a dam emergency, is 1-800-858-0368. That rings at emergency management, state emergency management. We have a website, which you also cannot read. Light blue doesn't show up very good. I do have some videos, but I don't think I have any internet connection on this computer, so I would show you some dam failure videos. They're cool. So anyway, like I said, I would encourage the town to update your emergency action plan and do a tabletop exercise, and so that you're ready. There is a hurricane or a little tropical storm. This watershed is very flashy. The water flows fast, and it comes down the river at a rapid rate, and a lot of it. So those boulders that are in the creek are sediment. So that just shows you how big the water can get. So, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask?
Any questions for Mr. Eller? Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming. We always appreciate it when you're here, and we certainly appreciate your continued partnership with us. I think everybody, we're all aware now of the seriousness of this, not just people in this room, but the whole community of Lake Lure. So, but this is a good succinct, overlook of what there is, and this will be interesting to be able to share with people. So thank you very much for that. Jonathan, would you?
Page down.
And now the guys can figure it out. Right.
Everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Thanks for having me tonight. So, talking a little bit about building on what George talked about as some of the deficiencies and where the dam doesn't meet North Carolina dam safety requirements. And I guess one point to make too that we've discussed in the past, it's a 100-year-old structure that it's quite common that dams of that age do not meet current dam safety requirements for a lot of these things. But one of the items and kind of the first step in the path forward here to address those requirements is the reservoir drain. And George mentioned that. You're familiar with it. We talked about it some. But basically for a high hazard dams, which George talked about, a high hazard, again, is if the dam were to fail, there's potential for loss of life and significant damages downstream. So for those types of structures, you must have a means to be able to drain the lake in the event of a dam safety emergency, to get the water off the dam and reduce that hazard. And that's the impetus behind this requirement. So with this reservoir drain, putting it in meets that requirement. And currently, what that looks like is the ability to more or less drain the lake completely, or drain the majority of the lake. Again, and the hopefully never, an event that never happens that you have this critical emergency, but at least you would have that ability. So currently the lake can only be drained about 12 feet using the spillway gates. So the path forward with the reservoir drain is Schnabel is currently under contract with the town to develop the design for that drain. It's being incorporated into the existing dam in what we call Bay 5, which is kind of in between the gated spillway and the powerhouse. And it will be near the base of the dam, a little bit above the base, but relatively close, to be able to drain up to 90% of the reservoir volume in the event of a critical emergency. You can see a schematic there at the bottom of basically, we infill the bottom portion of that bay with concrete, and there's a pipe that extends out, and then we tap through the existing dam and underwater to connect to the reservoir and have that connection. And then it's a gated or valved structure that you would operate when and if you needed to operate it. In terms of where we stand with that, like I mentioned, design is in progress. The 50% design submittal is coming up later this month. And so that'll be where we take that, we sit down with town staff and talk through some of our questions and your needs, and we address those as we go into final design. And so the design should be complete later this fall. And then the next step in that process is to go to George and get his approval of the design. So that process typically takes, it varies, but typically takes a few months to get approval for that. Ultimately, the goal is to start construction in the spring of '22, if not sooner. And then the construction duration for the reservoir drain is likely on the order of about 3 months to complete that work. So that's a quick summary of where we are with the reservoir drain. And then the next and the bigger thing is what to do, the dam itself. So you heard from George some of the areas that it doesn't meet, the existing dam doesn't meet dam safety requirements in terms of hydraulic capacity, stability in a couple cases, including seismic loading. And so under contract to the town in 2008 through 2019, we looked at, okay, what alternatives, how can you modify this dam to meet those requirements? And so modifications to the existing dam, I'll bend that kind of in dam rehabilitation. But we also looked at dam replacement, and we've sat down with you all and talked through those alternatives in detail in the past, and no need to rehash all that detail today. But ultimately, we compared a couple different rehabilitation alternatives with a replacement alternative. We compared that with respect to cost, schedule, technical factors, service life, a whole host of different factors, and presented the pros and cons of each. And as you're well aware, after a lot of those discussions, you all voted in February to proceed with the replacement dam as the preferred alternative. And really a big part of that decision, I think this is accurate to say that the costs between the major rehabilitation and replacement are very similar. But with the replacement alternative, you get a much longer service life. So you're spending the same amount of money to get a product, an asset that's gonna last much, much longer. You know, with the replacement alternative, the service life on that is, you know, well over 100 years. There will be some appurtenances, gates and things that need to be addressed more frequently than that potentially, but the mass of the dam itself should last a long, long time. We have not started any of the work relative to the design of that structure, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but just to give you a feel for the concept we're thinking about is, you see the photographs on the right is a concrete gravity structure, which is different than the type of dam you have now. Basically, a concrete gravity structure is a mass concrete structure that uses its self-weight to resist, for stability, to resist the water and resist sliding. So this dam will most likely be what's called a roller compacted concrete dam. Again, it's a massive concrete, but it's not the typical concrete you'd see rolling down the road in the back of a concrete truck. Roller compacted concrete is a very dry concrete mix that's placed like earth. So it's placed in lifts, usually about a foot thick, and then it's compacted using the rollers you see on the side of the highways for construction. And so it's much more cost effective than conventional concrete when you start talking about large volumes. So it's been used for concrete gravity dam construction all over the world, all over the U.S. for over the last 30 years extensively. And you see those are two photographs on the right of roller compacted concrete gravity dams. You see the spillways there. Typically you have a stepped face on the downstream side. In terms of the existing dam, what happens to that is some of that gets removed, but the majority of the existing dam will actually remain in place underwater. The intent is to only remove enough, mainly from a cost standpoint, that you want to remove enough that it doesn't adversely affect the hydraulics of the new structure and it doesn't affect things like recreation. So in terms of what that level is, typically varies between 10 and 20 feet below the typical operating pool of your lake. But that's also something we would coordinate with you all on as we develop the design. One thing to note, obviously you're well aware the current dam has hydroelectric power on it. The current concept is not to incorporate hydroelectric power on the new dam, but to be able to develop the design such that it could be added at a later date fairly easily if desired. So that's the path forward, at least at this point, for the terms of hydroelectric related to the new dam or the replacement dam. And I mentioned the reservoir drain before. You're spending a fair amount of money. The budget for the reservoir drain is on the order of $1.5 to $2 million. You're going to do that, and we want to try to use that money wisely and incorporate that into the replacement dam down the road. So just to mention that you're familiar with the terms of replacement dam costs are on the order of about $70 million, and the reservoir drain is on the order of about $1.5 to $2. So when does this happen? You're well aware, this is the schedule you all adopted. Approximately, this is the replacement dam. I already went through the schedule for the reservoir drain. But it's approximately a 10-year schedule is what's been developed. I think that's realistic, as George will tell you. It's a huge project. It takes time to happen. Potentially, it could, if everything falls into place, it's possible that it can get done sooner. But this is the schedule that was developed and presented to George and his folks. So the first step in that process really, and Laura's going to talk about the funding, so I'm not going to talk much about that. And there's some funding acquisition stages built into this 10-year schedule. I'm going to talk about more of the technical side of it. And the first step is conceptual design, which Laura's going to talk about the FEMA grant for that. But basically the conceptual design is doing some refined hydraulic analyses and developing some preliminary layouts for for the new dam, for the replacement dam. So as, you know, again, we're talking about constructing this replacement dam immediately downstream within a couple 100 feet of the existing dam. So we would refine the layouts for that to assist us in the next step, which is the field investigations. And what that entails is primarily going out and drilling a lot of holes in the ground, evaluating the quality of the rock. It's very important that you found these RCC gravity dams on sound bedrock, that you understand. I'm not a geologist, but you understand all about the jointing of the bedrock and all those things. So it's important to develop a lot of sound information about that, as well as seepage controls beneath this new dam. And then the next step, once you finish field investigations, is going into detailed design and completing that. And then you move forward from there into the permitting phase, which is fairly extensive for a replacement structure. Each of these steps, the field investigations and detailed design, will last about a year each. So the design process is about a 2-year process. Then you go into permitting, which will overlap or can overlap with design to some degree, but permitting could easily take a year or more to go through that and get the regulatory approvals. And then you move forward into construction, first, getting bids for the construction from prospective construction contractors and moving forward with construction. And construction roughly is probably about a 3-year process. And so that takes you, ultimately, I apologize, you can't really read it, but these major steps I outlined on the slide are shown graphically below, but there's a lot to cram in there in about 10 years, so it doesn't show up too well. But ultimately, the goal here, and another reason for, I believe, replacement, one of the pros of replacement was that you can minimize impacts to the lake during construction. With rehabilitation, you would have likely some periods where you needed to draw down the lake, sometimes significantly, to do some of the necessary work. With replacement, you can avoid a lot of that. And so the goal is to really minimize any impacts to the lake during that 3-year construction period. So it's a quick summary of kind of where things stand there. I don't know if anyone has any questions or.
Any questions for Jonathan? Thank you so much. We appreciate that update. And
Yeah.
once we appreciate your partnership too, very much.
Thank you.
Laura Ricci, give us an update on our funding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to all of you. I have had the opportunity to work on some grants to support this work, and as everyone knows from these previous presentations, there's a great need for funding to support this work. So that's one of the areas that I've been focused on here at town. And I'll start by sharing with you some of the grants that we have obtained through FEMA. And I think everyone is familiar with FEMA, but it's the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And the particular grants that we have applied for are called High Hazard Potential Grants. High Hazard Potential Dam Grants. So you'll see that reference if you ever are reading about these particular grants that we have applied for. And the reason for that title is not because of the status of our dam, but it is more because of the potential risk if something were to happen to our dam. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone. The first grant that we applied for was in 2019, and it was to support the spillway capacity. And you heard both Mr. Eller and Mr. Pittman refer to the spillway assessment, and this was a really critical project for the town because it provided information to our town council, which allowed them to make decisions about whether or not to try some alternatives to repair the dam or to move forward with the replacement project. So we were very pleased and grateful to be funded for $80,000 to support that project. Now, with any of these federal grants, particularly the FEMA grants, there is a requirement that there be matching funds. So the town always has to provide 35% of the matching funds. And so as we know, in the past year, one of the decisions that was made by town council was developing a reserve fund specifically for the dam. This becomes more and more important that we have that funding available each year in order to support our obtaining these grants. If we can't provide the matching funds as a town, then we're not going to be awarded the grants. So it's really a critical step that our town council and our town made to support this effort moving forward. So that was the very first grant that we obtained, again, to help support that spillway assessment. In 2020, we applied for a second grant, and it was to support the reservoir drain. And you heard from Mr. Eller the critical importance of that reservoir drain. It's also known as the sewer system access valve, so you'll hear it referred to in that term as well. You also heard Mr. Pittman referring to the importance of that reservoir drain. We were very grateful to be awarded this grant, which was in the amount of $121,000. And that project, as Jonathan shared with you, is taking place right now to develop the design for the reservoir drain. And again, the town matched by 35%. And as we're working on these grants, I work very closely with Sam Carr, our finance director, and he helps ensure that all of our funds are matched, and you'll see him come and present for a budget amendment to support some of these grants, because we have to have all the funding up front, and then we're reimbursed on the back end after the projects are completed. So I really appreciate having his expertise in managing the funding for these projects. And we also do extensive reports to Mr. Eller's office that go up to the National FEMA office to ensure that everything we're doing is being done appropriately and all the funds are allocated appropriately. So it is somewhat of a cumbersome process, I have to say. But we're very grateful to have the opportunity to apply and really happy to be funded. And in 2020, we had a second opportunity that occurred for the 2020 funds, but it actually came about in 2021. And so we had an opportunity to apply for some funds that someone else couldn't use. And so we wanted to begin working, the town council again made the decision to work towards a replacement dam, and we wanted to begin the work of the conceptual design. So we had decided to apply for this fund to help support the conceptual design of the replacement dam. So we are waiting with bated breath to find out if we're going to be funded for this project, and we hope to hear really any day now, but we're hopeful that this will come about and it would really support this work. And Jonathan, as you can see, is not busy enough, so we want to really keep him working and getting going on this conceptual design. So additionally, we applied for the FY21 grant. This is to support that field investigation that Jonathan mentioned, and the amount of the grant that we applied for was $1.3 million. We don't anticipate being funded at that level if we are awarded, but that's the amount of the project, so that's what we submitted. Again, this will require a match, and it would not be possible without that reservoir, without that dam reserve fund that town council has begun in FY21. So we are awaiting the outcome of this particular grant, and Mr. Eller and I were discussing this. We're hopeful, and of course, in North Carolina, we work really closely together. FEMA has the grants. They work with Mr. Eller's office. When we're applying for the grant, I work very, very closely with Jonathan Pittman so that we ensure we have all of the technical aspects correct. And in addition to grants, we have also begun working on funding through the infrastructure bill, and you're all familiar with the infrastructure bill and have heard a lot about that. We learned about the opportunity to apply for funding through the infrastructure bill through the policy group who helps support the town, and we just jumped right on this opportunity and had the opportunity to submit an application, and Commissioner DiOrio will speak a little bit more about this, I think, in a moment, but we applied, and the opportunity was through the National Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So our project really had to be tied with something related to transportation. So we really worked closely with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, and if you're all aware, the bridge that passes over our current dam, a project was in the works to replace that bridge. I think everybody might be aware of that. So our project is really tied with that project with NCDOT. And we submitted for the first phase of the replacement dam in the amount of $8 million. Again, just like the other grants that I've described, we have to have matching funds. For this particular fund, it's 25%. So again, having that reservoir, that dam reserve fund was really critically important. We not only applied through Representative Cawthorn, we applied through Senator Burr and Senator Tillis. We had support from Senator Hayes from Rutherford County, from the Isothermal Regional Planning Organization, and as I mentioned, NCDOT. This is a copy of the letter of support that went to the National Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And we were really pleased to see this letter and to have this level of support on a national level. I think this might be one of the first times that the town and some of the needs that we have to support the infrastructure here have been, we've reached the national level. So we're very excited about that. And in closing, if you were to go online and look at the bill, you would find this reference for Lake Lure, again tied with the NCDOT bridge and our project for replacing the dam for $8 million. So we are very hopeful that something positive will come out from this, perhaps at a national level, perhaps at a state level, but again, we're looking for every opportunity and pursuing every opportunity to get grant funding and other financial support for these critical projects. And I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Laura, so much. Any questions?
Yeah, Laura, right now we've picked up the $40,000 grant. You mentioned the $80,000, and what was the other FEMA amount?
$121,000, and we don't officially have the $40,000 grant yet. We're waiting to hear officially if we're awarded that.
Right, and it's probably looking pretty good. So all combined, that comes to $240,000.
That's right.
So appreciate your hard work.
Well, and we do appreciate your hard work. And Laura has just been the driver of this, with her team too. Sam certainly helping with applying for these grants. This is not something you do in an afternoon. This is a tremendous amount of work. And I do want to add on to what Laura said about our needing the matching funds, just to remind everybody, this dam capital reserve that we keep alluding to that will allow us to have matching funds, that is what the increase in taxes that were passed this year in our budget. And that allows us to put $1.6 million each year that's accretive to our dam reserve fund, and it will be 1.6 million each year, so that we'll be continued to be able to have these matching reserves. So just to let you know, your tax dollars are at work, and this is what they're doing, and it's absolutely critical to our ability to obtain funding and to proceed with these infrastructure projects. So thank you for that.
I know that Commissioner DiOrio is probably wants to have a few things to say. We just received notice from the policy group that we're in the North Carolina's budget, and so it's $16 million for the dam and $8 million for sewer. And so we're in the final report, and it has been reported out that those funds are coming to Lake Lure, but the final budget hasn't been adopted yet, but the policy group is 90% sure that we're going to receive what is $24 million to help with our infrastructure, so it's looking good.
So we'll wait with bated breath for that. And Commissioner DiOrio.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, I mean, $70 million, a 10-year program. Appreciate working with the state and with the engineers. I mean, we need to just stay together, stay close, work out, be on the same page to get this project done in the 10-year timeframe, and we're off to a good start. So the town manager just said we have potentially coming our way this year that we didn't have last year, but this year we have over $20 million that's going to be coming our way. And this is going to go right into development, doing the engineering pre-work that we need to get us our replacement dam. But in order for you to kind of visualize the overall strategy, and this is it's a 10-year strategy, and we had this conversation with Representative Cawthorn. It goes something like this. I think this information will help you understand how we're going to get there. All right, we're in pretty good shape because Lake Lure has a lot of things going for it. We have a lot of economic impact into the area, so that economic impact, especially at the legislator level, at the state, and Representative Cawthorn at the federal level, they understand that Lake Lure is a keystone in the area for economic prosperity. So they're willing to help us. They've all aligned, the county, all the way from the county commissioners all the way to the federal level. They're all in agreement that it's in everyone's interest to help get that replacement dam for Lake Lure. That's a good place. Everyone's lined up, they want to help, and we're seeing the fruits of that in the legislation as it comes forward. So economic impact is one bin that we're looking at as a strategy. Another one is maintaining wetlands. We've had the lake for 100 years. There are organizations like the United States Army Corps of Engineers that looks at wetlands, wants to maintain them. We've reached out to the Wilmington office to say, hey, we have these wetlands here. If something happens to the lake, that would have a negative impact. They agree, and they're willing to step in and partner, if appropriate, to help us with another bin of funding to preserve wetlands in western North Carolina. That's the second thing we have going for us. The third thing is, and Laura talked about it, is the fact that we have a high hazard dam, and people could get hurt if the dam were to have a problem. Therefore, all the FEMA money, and by the way, George, thank you for pointing out those potential FEMA grants, and your support with that is crucial. So we have that going for us as well, flood control, right? And so no one wants to see a flooding situation downstream of the dam, so that's another bin of money that we can tap into for the long haul. And there's more. Green energy is starting to come online. Now, hydroelectric is kind of set aside when you start talking about green energy when you compare it to wind and solar, but I see that there's going to be opportunities in these infrastructure bills to invest in more green energy, and we have the potential to link the new replacement dam to hydroelectric. That's another bin of money that we can tap into that may perhaps help us get to where we need to go. And lastly, and this is the argument we had to make for the federal money in the infrastructure bill, there has to be a law that allows the federal government to pay down at the municipal level. Our end with that is something that's called rural transportation access. What that means is, in rural areas of the country, there's a lot of small towns don't have a lot of money for transportation. The federal government will step in to make sure that folks that live in rural areas have access. Well, if you think about our dam, the dam has the bridge on it. No dam, no bridge. No bridge, half the population of Lake Lure is isolated from the other half. And so we made that argument, and that was the legislation that allowed us to do that. So we have the ability to tap into federal transportation dollars because of rural transportation access. And that's what got us the in with the $8 million that Laura talked about. So that's another bin of money that we can tap into. So how are we going to get this done? Well, in a 10-year span, we're going to continue to look for, in each one of these bins, and it seems like small amounts, right? 100,000 here, 50,000 there, but all of that adds up to real money. So we're going to continue to tap in, make applications to bring that money in as federal and state money comes our way to get into design. And the way this works is once you get the ball rolling and you start to get into design and you start to see concrete things happening and people realize that we're a good investment to move forward, more money will come. And I think we'll get to the point where we may be able to assume the remaining debt on the dam from ourselves with perhaps a low interest, long-term loan in order to finish off the dam, all within that 10-year time frame. So that's the strategy. And as the mayor alluded to, in your tax bill this year, you're going to see something a little different. I think the notices, Sam, I think they went out this week, didn't they? The tax notices. If not, you're going to get them in your mailbox real soon. One of the things you're going to see on there, your taxes did go up about 10%, 10 to 12%, but you're going to see on there a specific line item that says Lake Lure Dam Reserve. And that money is geared to go into, as the mayor said, $1.6 million a year in order for us to have those matching funds available to allow the bigger money to come into Lake Lure. Without that reserve, we don't qualify. And the other thing that we did, which is worth noting, is in order to get that 1.6 million, that wasn't all your tax increase. What we did as a town is your town council took a look at about 16 cost-saving measures this year to reduce the burden, day-to-day operational burden on the town to help make up some of that 1.6. So your tax, the technical aspect of this, your taxes went up 11 cents, but really we're setting aside 19 cents on the dollar of your tax revenue for 1.6 million. So we reduced expenditures, raised the taxes a little bit, 1.6 million to tap into all those different bins as they come forward. That's the strategy. And with that, I would offer any questions perhaps from the town council on where we're going.
Good job. Good job.
Any
No
questions?
questions.
Thank
I do
you
not, no.
so much. So I hope this was helpful to everyone. It's certainly always helpful to us. I know it seems like sometimes we're going through things that we already know, but we always have additions to what we know. And that's what's good about the progress that we're making. This is not going to be something that's going to be over in a year. This is a 10-year process, but we are, fully committed to it, and together with our partners, both Mr. Eller of the state, and our engineers and the town council and the town by, as I said, with the addition of the taxes, we'll reach our goals. We really don't have any choice in this, and I think we all know that, and that's been probably the greatest impetus to everybody getting started fixing this. It's just not something that's an option. We really have to do it. So thank you all so much for coming tonight. Jonathan, Mr. Eller, we appreciate that very much. Laura, thanks again for everything you do for the grants. We will move on then. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to the council liaison reports and comments. Commissioner Kilby.
ABC store, I saw a big article in the paper, in the Asheville paper, that the shortage on liquor. I think really it's a shortage on being able to get it, not necessarily a shortage on that there is, but the ABC store is experiencing what everybody else experiences, and that's a lack of product due to the national shortage and the situation, mostly transportation, I think. They're staying on top of that best they can. The ABC store, like other businesses, are hurting for employees. They currently have 3 full-time employees. They need 5. So there's a couple of positions open at the ABC store. If you know anybody that's looking for work, part-time or full-time, ABC's looking for employees like most everyone else around here, I think. That's it for ABC. Lake Advisory Board met last Monday, not yesterday, but a week ago Monday. Again, the Lake Advisory Board continues to be focused on safety on our lake. That's our number one goal, is safety on the lake. And I think I mentioned last meeting that the LAB's doing a study on horsepower, outboard motor horsepower on the lake. They've also been looking at inboard boats and the motors and the sizes, speeds on that. Now they're getting into looking into the outboard motor sizes. If you're an old gentleman like me, that's not usually the term I use, but I thought I'd clean it up a little bit. If you're an old guy like me, have a 50 on my pontoon, you know, and I'm happy, I can go anywhere on this lake in about 6 minutes I need to go. But we do have at least one boat. Dean slipped out on me, must have knew I was gonna ask him. We have one pontoon on the lake, has a 350 horsepower motor on it. So the LAB is really looking at this as a number one goal, safety, and they're studying all the boats on the lake and the size of the motors. Right now, the most popular horsepower motor is a 115 to a 150. We're using for some of our something to benchmark with Lake Bowen. If you're familiar with Lake Bowen, if you're going down to Spartanburg, Lake Bowen is 3 times the size of Lake Lure. They have a 90 horsepower top limit on outboard motors on Lake Bowen, and they're 3 times our size. So a lot of work's going into this, a lot of riding around looking at boats and writing down what is the most popular on Lake Lure. If you see somebody come by peeking in your boathouse trying to see what your motor is, you'll know why. That's why they're doing that. So the Lake Advisory Board's working hard. And another thing, and I may have mentioned this last month, I can't remember for sure, getting lots and lots and lots of requests for buoys, for no-wake buoys on the lake. There is a specific criteria that you have to meet to qualify for no-wake buoys in front of your property on the lake. It's on the town website for you to go and look at and see. If you're thinking about asking for a buoy, I would suggest you go and check that specific criteria, because Lake Advisory Board approves those, and they are supporting the lake manager, Dean Givens, in sticking to those guidelines, that you have to meet those specific guidelines in order to qualify to have a no-wake buoy on there. Not saying there will be any exceptions, but for the most part, there's no exceptions on that. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner DiOrio?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. One policy issue came up in the UAB, and this is to get it as a matter of public record too, and town manager knows about this. So lake drawdown this year, November 1st through the end of March is what we anticipate. It's 5 months to get all the work done, this drawdown period. However, we're finding now that there may be an opportunity to get a lot of the work. We don't know for sure, but there may be an opportunity to finish up at least the work that we have to do as a town to get ready for the sewer installation next year. We may be ready as early as the end of January to start refilling the lake. So what we want to do is get word out to the contractors and to anyone who's going to be doing work in the lake bed during the drawdown period to make sure they understand that they need to be out of the lake, all contracts completed, all work completed by the end of January. So with town council's permission, I'd like to give direction to the town manager to get word out to issue no permits and to stop or have all work cease in the lake by contractors by the end of January, which keeps the option open to us to start refilling at that point. And so we just need to get the word out on that, and if there's any question on that.
No,
Is that-
Dean Lindsay's happy about that, though.
Yeah, that, I mean, the other big reason is that you got the lake up that we can start generating power again, so we'll try to do that. We don't know for sure, but we're anticipating, and our promise to the folks in Lake Lure is that we're gonna be as efficient as possible with these drawdowns. And if we get the work done as efficient as I think we can, we'll start drawing it up as soon as we can. But we don't want to have contractors that thought they could go to the end of March, which gets into contractual problems or whatever. So Mr. Town Manager, unless you have questions on that, that's, I think you're getting direction from the town council to put the word out on that.
All right, Commissioner Moore?
The zoning and planning board did not meet in July. There was no business to come before the board, but we are having a meeting next Tuesday, a week from today, at 9:30.
All right, Mr. Wright?
Yep. Board of Adjustment and Lake Structures Appeals Board met regarding a small postage stamp-sized property off Tryon Bay Circle. They were wanting to build a home there, but they did not have a proper setback, so that was not approved at that meeting. So Parks and Recreation met. We had a robust discussion regarding the golf course, and we had a full assessment done of that property and divided into 5 zones, but also just assessing all of the information that's there. And there's some other information in the public pieces here too. It was very, very, very well thought out for inventory and assessment for those. So it was a very good discussion. There's more things coming. There is interest by potential investors for the future of the golf course. So we are excited for that on Parks and Recreation. So many options still to be considered. One of the big pieces coming up is Hickory Nut Gorge, the Lake Lure Olympiad. They do have their, in the interest of time, they have their agenda on lakelureolympiad.com, .org, I believe. Sorry, lakelureolympiad.org, so you can see all of the events that are coming up. That is coming up 12th, 13th, and 14th of this month, so very excited for that. So Flaring Bridge has still had what I like to call ridership increases. They're still doing tremendously well. Dana Bradley and her team with Parks and Recreation and all those folks that work so hard in their department have done amazing for volunteer hours for cleanup days on the parks. Lormont Trail is still in the works, but some inspection pieces have been done there also. So there's a lot of really good movement happening. The final meeting minutes will be posted on the town website once those are done. So they had to record those. They have to go back and transcribe them. So yeah, so several grants that are still coming up for Buffalo Creek Park, the dredging grant, finalizing the budget so we can expend all of that incredible $800,000 and so that we had. So there's a lot happening. I'm very excited. So
Thank you.
All right.
We wait for your future updates on those,
Yeah,
all of those things.
certainly.
That completes our council liaison reports, and we'll move to our public comment section. If there's anyone in the public who would like to step up to the podium, state their name and address. If you have something that you would like to say, we invite you to speak for 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Melito. I live at 1412 Proctor Road. I'm actually representing the homeowners association for the neighborhood that lives up Proctor Road. Now, most of you probably don't know about our neighborhood. It's a hidden little gem that is up the road behind the inn. That's Proctor Road. We had some meetings with some people from the city about a year ago where the park was thinking about diverting some of their traffic onto Proctor Road at the proposed town center. And that, from our standpoint as a neighborhood, would have presented a problem with ingress and egress to our neighborhood. And there's a couple alternatives that we approached, but with COVID happening, and if you hadn't noticed, the town has been pretty empty for a year, and so there was really no ingress and egress issues with our neighborhood until more recently. Now, traffic in the area has substantially increased, and additionally, our contacts at the park now delivers optimism that they're going to be getting grants necessary to complete their roadway in the park, which will divert traffic at least one way into the area behind the inn, but possibly 2 ways, because to repair their supposed inroad will actually require closing it, and they may want to have 2-way traffic coming in. And so what's happening is There's a number of roads there that we use as bypass when traffic is heavy or we can't get to our neighborhood. And we actually made sure that those were indeed town roadways, because they're all dirt right now. And we sent a letter from our attorney indicating that we use those roads and we plan to use those roads. And we requested that the city, the town, inform us if there was any changes in plans for keeping those roadways open. And we requested that you maintain and condition them so that they're safe. And if you were to look at a day like today, our primary bypass road would be essentially unnavigable to anything but a fairly large 4x4 because it's nothing but mud after the storm we had. So we're requesting that you acknowledge that these roadways are for the citizens of the town and that they are viable ingress and egress to our neighborhood, and that you maintain especially Kettering, Beach roads that allow access to Proctor Road so that we can navigate to our community in a safe manner. As it is now, crossing through the parking lot on a Saturday or a Sunday, you have people going the wrong way down one-way streets, you have people backing into traffic, not stopping at crossroads, and we much prefer bypassing all that so that we can get in and out in a safe and efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to, if you'd like a copy of this.
Absolutely, we would. Thank you so much, Mr. Melito.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
On this issue, our town Public Works Department has been mowing that right-of-way. Correct. David, could you come to the mic just for a second? I'm sorry to call you out. Just kind of just give us a little update as to what we have and have not been doing, and maybe council has some ideas.
Oh, I've been with the town about 5 years. The first 3 years that I've been here, it was just an unopened street right away is what I would call it. I've dealt with in the past. But about a year ago, maybe, we were asked to keep that mowed so people could go through because it is considered a street right of way. We don't mow it every month, but we at least a couple times a year go through there and mow it, you know, and Shannon asked me about it. Matter of fact, just today, well, 3 or 4 days ago, we went through and mowed it. So it's just something we try to do as we are getting out mowing, but it is not gravelled, it is not a full street. You know, if that was something that would be considered, we would have to go in and put gravel and stuff like that and maintain it as an open street. So that's just something to consider, and if that's something you want to do, just let me know.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. So it's not really a street then?
Well, it is a street right of way. In other words,
There's a right of way, but
Yes.
that's not the main, for what Mr. There's a different way for you to go in that's paved, right? Through the parking area.
There is a, yes, there's a small portion that is paved, but that's where the park wants to take off their ingress and egress and is going to dump a huge amount of traffic onto that if they get funding for this proposed project.
Yeah, well, information for you, that's not gonna happen in the near future. That's really off the table right now. It's not even on the radar. So what we have right now is gonna be for the long term. So I'm a little bit concerned when you say you need a 4x4 for access, but you actually have an access.
We do have we use this.
Okay.
One of the routes is paved, and that's the way you would do it right now.
Right.
A lot of the neighbors prefer using the bypass, especially when there's a lot of traffic in the parking lot below.
Okay, no, I got it. So that other bypass is an alternate. It's a convenient
It's
alternate.
an unopened street.
Unopened
Is
street,
what I
okay.
called it. Was that
Okay, I got it.
back during the original planning, when all the streets were built, it's just one that was never opened up, you know, and finished out.
Okay, thank you.
I think just a little more clarity, the current town center in that area, it's lost its original design, and the town owns property. There are individuals that own portions of this area. Right now, Proctor Road residents actually go through a parking lot rather than use the designated street right-of-way, that if that were to be improved, then that certainly would separate Proctor Road residents from, say, the parking lots that they have to pass through currently, and that would require perhaps the town improving those streets. But it, could possibly mean that maybe if some of those residents wanted to help contribute towards improvements, that could be a possibility. But I think, what they're asking for is to have permanent, reliable ingress and egress into their community in all circumstances. The rights of way are there. It's a matter of making the improvements in those rights of way that would keep them from having to pass through the parking lot areas that were currently being looked at as the state park plans for its new entrance or egress. So,
As neighbors, we would be willing to work with the community for these improvements, understanding the budgetary constraints from the town.
Thank you, thank you. That would be appreciated.
thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes?
Madam Mayor, Council, thanks for allowing me the time. I'm Mark Hook, and my wife and I have resided at 159 Lower Woods Manor for the last 9 years after being regular visitors for 30 years prior to that. To date, I've served on the town's Board of Adjustment for 6 years, including 2 years as chairman, 1 year on the Flowering Bridge, and now on Parks and Rec. I'm here tonight representing our Parks and Rec Board, who has appointed me or asked me to help save the golf course and our green space. We recognize the town's challenges and priorities of the sewage and dam, and the corresponding requirement of being better fiscally prepared should we obtain matching federal and/or state funding. However, we feel it's irresponsible for town management to simply close our municipal golf course and only one of only our 2 green spaces without even trying to identify future owners or lease operators. We recognize that our golf course may end up having to be repurposed if a suitable operator owner cannot be identified, but these things take time and effort. So we respectfully request that no decision be made to shut down the course or terminate the golf course agreement until the end of the year. So that's kind of why I'm here, a little bit of update on where the board is at and then that one request. We feel this decision, it's important, and we're gonna see a tremendous amount of turnover here in the next couple of months, and maybe this decision should be made by the new town management, new town council, as they'll have to live with that decision while actively serving. On the money, we recognize and agree the current annual $100,000 subsidy must be eliminated in future agreements. It was very well laid out tonight, the situation that we're in, and we've got to get rid of it. But this can be easily avoided if the town agrees to permit multiple uses. Just a couple of examples. We could build 4 tennis pickleball courts, which is part of our open space, or green space plan. Not a big money maker, but it makes it now a multiple use designation. Once we get a multiple use designation, we can get a restaurant, bar, grill type thing. A local bar and grill owner has confided he was profiting $20,000 a month. We could also get a boutique hotel. A local motel owner has confided in me, you can make $100,000 a year with as little as 6 rooms. We're not, one of the original discussions was, hey, we're gonna put a 5 or 7, story hotel. Mr. Bryant is well-versed in occupancy rates, and we're not even close to requiring that kind of addition. However, a 6, 8, 14 room, we could put a railroad track and have some railroad cars or tree houses or, some cool things. Some of the people that we're talking to are complete stay and play type operators. One of the guys that had a local motel putt-putt gift store owner confided in me his largest profit margin was on putt-putt. Adding a putt-putt course there would be perfect between Chimney Rock and Rumbling Bulk. those are just some examples. We got 6 or 8 more. The point is, there are many multiple uses that we can do to utilize that green space and not have to require a subsidy in the future. We are poised to have an all-time record year of nearly 10,000 rounds of golf and foot golf this year, of which 40% are visitors. And know this, the town may save $100,000 a year on paper, but that, we may end up actually losing money because we still have to maintain the green space even if we shut it down. And that 40% spends money elsewhere. And just last week, 7 groups of golfers inquired about nearby eating and were directed to Lake House. Now, yeah, not everybody that visits plays and stays, but there are many that do. There are many family reunions that just come in to use our municipal golf course. And you take that away, or what's going on when people are using the course, what are their spouses are spending money at our local establishments. We're going to lose some money. The town did not survey or poll the voice of the people with very little effort. We have over 600 people, or 50% of our year-round households that have signed a petition desiring to keep the course open. This course generates a ton of goodwill. On the appraisal, it was required every 10 years, completed in May, reported in June, and analyzed in July. Much less than hoped, but the valuation was confirmed by a commercial real estate executive. We appraised 109 acres. Highest and best use is less than $1 million. If the entire tract had water and sewer, which we don't. The golf course as is was appraised at $572,000. Some keynotes from the appraisal: our deed was never updated. That's still at 202 acres, so we've got to fix that. One of the stated potential uses is commercial development. It was stated in the appraisal that's very unlikely due to the lack of need and added costs associated with the lack of utilities and topography. We also talked about, well, maybe it'd be a good idea to put some lower income housing in there. Lower income housing is also very unlikely, as the lowest home cost in the area is still much higher than what a low income person would qualify for.
Mark, I
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
tell you, you're past
I
your
got
3
one.
minutes.
I'm past, okay. So where are we at? We began speaking with potential lease operators and owners, but they all had the same questions. We need financials, we need topo, we need the deed, we need perceived value, we need a sales package. So we took a step back and we're creating that. It's almost done. We have 2 fish on the hook, if you, per pun. These 2 firms, one already has 6 courses, one has 14. They're both looking to expand. So again, just please, we got part C here today is the golf course property lease termination. Please delay that. There's no reason it has to be done tonight. The budget's approved through next June. The current lease operators are committed through April. We could quit as late as December and still close it if we don't come up with a solution for you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any, Laura?
Madam Mayor, Council, I'm Laura Doster. I am here representing the chamber, but I do live at 274 Thomas Edison Road here in Lake Lure. Been here 4 years next week, so excited to be a resident. I thought it would be fun to share this information, not to correct you, Patrick, but the Olympiad is the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
And we got some really exciting news. It kind of, I guess, kind of supports Mark's point about the people that come here. So for our triathlon alone, 22.4% of the participants live outside of North Carolina. So for a sprint triathlon, that's very unusual. People will travel long ways to go to an Ironman, but the sprints are so many, they usually don't. So sprint means it's a little shorter triathlon. And I'd just like to run through the states because I thought this was really interesting. Alabama, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, North Carolina, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, I'm losing my voice, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and Wisconsin. So it lets you know that people are coming from long distances. This is becoming kind of a premier. It goes with our whole outdoor initiative. The athletes love it here. They're coming to participate in this. So kind of fun and great news. Thought that'd be worth sharing. Thank you.
so much. We appreciate that. I'm glad you know the dates now since you have a Parks and Rec.
Yes, yeah, we talked about it, yeah. That's why I gave the website first, yes.
There you go.
Pat Beatty Memorial Highway. I've lived here 20 years, and for all the 20 years, the golf course has not succeeded the way that everyone wants it to succeed. I don't know why, but I would like the golf course to be used for the residents, not to bring more tourists here. We have enough. They use our resources. Our taxes pay for them using our resources. But just think about what could we bring to the residents, the taxpayers, and the taxpayers' kids. That's all.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment? Well, thank you all. We always appreciate your time, and we appreciate your willingness to get up and share your comments with us. We will move on then to our consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the items placed on the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the consent agenda is passed unanimously as written. We will move on to unfinished business, but there is none. So we will begin our new business. Our first item is the wastewater treatment plant chemical room upfit presentation and discussion.
So Dean Lindsay is going to give us a presentation, and then there's a follow-up budget amendment for that. So we'll turn it over to Dean. While Dean's moving to the microphone, again, just want to express appreciation to Dean and the work he's done at the hydro plant and what he's doing at the wastewater treatment plant. He continually finds things that have languished and as far as maintenance goes, and this is some of the things he continues to find for us that should have been fixed years ago. So, Dean.
Thank you. Have you seen the agenda, just for the chemical room upfit? We're asking to get the floor repaired, the walls repaired, the lighting, new tanks, so that we can get better pricing on our chemicals by ordering them in bulk. I've got the competitive bids that are in the write-up. I think only one of them showed, but if you, it's on the.
They were pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. But the differences are huge. If we go off last year, what we paid for chemicals, if we use the new pricing with the bulking, it's a $28,000 savings.
Almost pays for the whole project.
Yes.
That's not.
But, yes, that's what, we're asking for, to basically upfit the chemical room so we can, it's a bad situation having to use all these chemicals, but we're trying to get them cheaper.
Are there any questions for Dean Lindsay?
Dean,
It's
based on.
pretty self-explanatory.
Sure. Dean, based on your research, when's the last time we bid chemicals?
It hasn't been done since I've started. I don't know, exact dates that if and when they've been bidded. I know the current supplier's been here since I've been here, but, I didn't inquire the exact date if we've ever, put them out for bid.
All right, shall we address at the same time this, take the two together on the wastewater treatment plant chemical room upfit budget amendment? Not to
I think we
those
do,
together
we're
or
doing
separately?
separately. I
All right,
think we
well,
do.
let's go ahead and do.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve wastewater treatment plant chemical room upfit budget amendment number 311, item B in the new business.
All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then that passes passes unanimously. We'll move on then to the accompanying wastewater treatment plant chemical room upfit budget amendment number 311. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
That's what we just did. We just did that.
Okay.
I think it'd be 310, item D.
That's up, that's next.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll move on then to the dam and hydroelectric automation project presentation and discussion. Dean?
Mr. Lindsay.
Okay, for the automation for the dam, this will allow us to, we had it in for last year, but due to scheduling, the COVID and the contractor situation, we were not able to get started last year. So right now, we'd like to try and have it scheduled for June. But again, what the automation will do, it allow us to utilize the new power purchase agreement we're gonna have with Duke Energy for the different times we have to run. It will give us remote monitoring capability and remote control, or where we don't have to physically be on the stand to open and close the Tainer gates. And from doing it, that means a lot when you're out in a storm.
Yeah.
But, yes, this is the request for the automation again.
All right, any questions on that?
I do have one question, because there's a linkage here, George. You mentioned a tabletop exercise with the EAP. Well, we'll do that, and we'll get it all together, but just so you know, this is linked, and we're gonna automate the Tainer gates and the flood control. More indication of what the water level is doing, where it's coming from. So I think that's a move in the right direction. We'll get that one thing we could update the EAP with is with that capability, and we'll tabletop it.
And on another note on the EAP, we have updated it, but between Dustin and myself, we were gonna schedule the tabletop, or we were gonna invite all the counties, and that just has to be scheduled. So we're on the right route.
All righty, do I hear a motion then?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve new business item D, dam and hydroelectric automation project budget amendment number 310.
I'll make a second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Then that is approved unanimously. Good for you. No more getting up in the middle of the night running down, right? Our next order of business for new business is street signs on private streets, policy discussion.
Sure.
That-
That's Director Arrowood,
Ah.
and he'll explain that scenario for us. We're looking at policy that was set well over 20 years ago, and we're just asking the board to revisit that. David?
Yeah, Liz Gary from RBR contacted me about a month ago and asked me about us replacing street signs on private streets. I told her that I had been with the town a little less than 5 years, and since I've been here, we haven't done any of that. And, she said, okay, and, well, the next day, she sent me a thing to where the board, back in May the 14th of 1995, approved for us to install signs on private streets. They had to purchase the signs, they had to purchase the poles and everything. So after she sent that to me, the first thing I done is I called the adjoining cities. I called the town of Rolston, Spindale, Forest City. I said, look, guys, private streets, are you furnishing signs? Are you installing signs? You know, what are you doing? They said, no, we're not. We don't do it. Got the same response in all 3 towns. So I came back to Shannon and just felt like it was a decision that y'all might want to make. You know, if you want to continue to do the same thing, then let me know. Or if you want to rethink it. We don't own the infrastructure on these private streets. You know, most of it, we don't own the underground infrastructure. If we go out there and we drive through CWS's sewer line, we're gonna be responsible for fixing it, or their water line, or, you know, any other private street for that matter. So my recommendation would be not to do it on private streets, but.
Madam Mayor, a question for David, if I may. David, 911, making sure that if there's an emergency, folks can, first responders can find where they're supposed to go? What ensures that the signs that go up
Well-
comply with specs?
Basically, about any sign place you contact now to get a street sign is gonna sell you a DOT-approved sign. The old non-reflective is about a thing of the past. They all know what the specs are. But there's stuff in place. Our fire department, actually has a dog in the fight, and so does zoning, that says, you know, what standards have to be met. Chris from the fire department looked into that and told me that there's stuff there that says, you know, you have to meet state standard, you have to meet the reflectability and stuff like that. So if people are doing it in the right way and checking with like Mike or the fire department, you know, then we're gonna let them know exactly what's what.
So the point is that if we don't install that sign, the sign still will be installed to ensure that folks are safe.
It should be, yes,
Okay.
if it's done in the right way.
David, a question, in conjunction with this, so a private street and the property owner that uses that private street,
Right.
they're wanting us to install the signs. They want us to buy them and put them up, but then we found out we had put them up in the past. But, whose responsibility who is it for the maintenance on those private streets? Is it the property owner association, the resort?
Yes,
Yeah.
the POA, the resort, whatever. I mean, just, I'm not picking on RBR,
Well, I
but
understand.
them,
I
for
live in
instance,
one,
they're
I
in
know.
they're in a gated community. You know, we
Right,
basically don't even have access without going through their gate.
right.
Same way with the village resort or wherever, you know, they're private streets that are maintained by POAs or HOAs or whatever.
Well, in the one I live in, the POA does all that. They
Right.
buy them, they put them up, they
Right.
they have a maintenance person that puts them up and everything.
Right.
Within that, without using tax dollars.
I did, when I got the email and responded to the lady in RBR, I told her I would be getting back in touch with her, but it would be after I came before the board, you know, and see what y'all's decision is. But like I say, a decision was made May 14th, 1995. Livia has a copy of it, and she may have put it in your packets, but if we're not gonna continue to do that, then I don't know what you need to vote or whatnot, but, I just need to know which way to proceed.
Okay. Is there any discussion, by any of the council members
Yeah.
about,
William, we want to clean this up and revert to the prior policy of not furnishing signs on private streets. Do we just need, is it something we can do tonight, or we need to get something put together for next month?
Is this the only instance in town where this,
Well, there's a lot of private streets in town, so,
but I mean-
so it's gonna come up again. There's no doubt about it, but this is the first one that has contacted me about numerous streets, you know, everything in their development. And the old thing that they voted on said that the private streets would actually buy the sign, but we would be responsible for putting them up and maintaining them, driving the post in and all of that stuff.
well, I think you can do a motion and vote tonight to not continue to do that. You might want to look at a resolution or adopt a policy or something later that says the town's not in the business of doing that. It's probably a questionable legality anyway. So, but if this is the only place, at least we know about where the town has done it before, then I would say just a motion and vote to
Okay.
undo that or.
I'll make that motion then, that we change the policy back to the town does not participate in installing or maintaining signs on private property.
I'll second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes. One quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I agree with that, but do we require these private streets to have signage so that even if we're making them pay for it, in order that the fire department can find
I think
it?
so. That would be a good question for Dustin, but through the E911,
Right.
emergency 911 system, they do require the street signage and stuff be up, just like if you go get a building permit
Right.
now to do anything additional to your home, and they come out there and there's not a,
So if we're not
an
gonna put it
address.
up, we need to make sure they put it up, right?
That's exactly right.
What you're saying is already a mechanism in place to ensure that gets done without action from us.
Well, I mean, it could go unnoticed, yes,
Okay.
by somebody. But if we do get a call, then naturally, we will let whoever know that's over the POA, through our contacts here. But if people going in and out and they realize it's down and they're part of the POA, let whoever's over your POA know, hey, our sign's down. It needs to be replaced, and you need to contact Dustin with the fire department. He'll lead you in the right direction.
Right,
Okay.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our last item under new business is town manager recruitment process. David, you wanted to speak to that?
Sure, well, I'll get the conversation started. So, first of all, town manager's notified us that he's gonna be retiring. And I'll just say one thing to start off this conversation. So, a year ago, we didn't have a plan for our dam and our sewer system. We have one now, and due in large part to the extraordinary effort from our town manager. And Shannon, thank you, and we wish you the best as you go on to your next career. Leaving us here in December, tough shoes to fill, but we need to do that. And so we need to get the process started. So I'd like to start the conversation, and I'll probably defer to Commissioner Kilby. But I think we'd like to try to get an outfit that finds town managers for us. And I don't know if we've started to look. I think we have a list of those areas, but I think we were gonna, William was gonna start to look into some potential firms that would seek out some talent for the town of Lake Lure.
I've reviewed their websites and some list of clients and stuff, and that's about, I saw Lake Lure on the list of one of them. I guess that's who we used a few years ago.
Okay.
Before my time, but, Developmental Associates, I think, no, wait. Yeah, I think that was the one that I saw Lake Lure on, but anyway, Shannon sent us all an email that had, 4 of the better known, I guess, firms that specialize in helping find executives, private and public town managers, and they all have impressive resumes. I don't know what the price would be. I haven't contacted any of them, but we did use one of them before. I think it was the Developmental Associates.
So to make it simple, what I would propose with any comment from the town council is we give William direction to pursue a contract with that firm, or a couple of them, maybe come back with some options, and then we'll select one and we'll start the process. Probably a 45-day or so recruitment period, posting, and then we'll decide how we're gonna handle those applications. I think the firm actually goes through them and vets them and gives us their recommendation, and we take it from there. But I think, unless there's another comment, I think we want you to do that.
To contact these firms?
Yeah,
Okay.
and to come up with a couple options that you see appropriate. We'll make a determination. Is that?
Yeah, a proposal would be good.
A proposal?
Yeah, to find,
Yeah.
price comparisons
Okay.
and professionalism. Does the LGC offer any resources for this? I don't know that they do. Okay.
I think
They will offer fill-in positions if you lose somebody,
Oh, yeah, there is that.
but that's different. We're looking for.
I know some of the
so.
retired managers that do that, and they're quite good,
Yeah.
in an emergency. I mean, if we had to go that way.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what to be involved in this, what kind of information they may seek from the town in order to develop.
I would
proposal.
think they would have something they would provide you with that we
Right.
need to give them, right?
Like a
And the-
request for proposal?
And it might be, the one that was used before, I don't know what kind of experience the town had with them, if it was efficient and cast a wide net and got a lot of applicants, or
That was not-
not good? Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Well, you can strike that one off your list.
Okay, good to know. All right, well, I'll contact these others and see what I can pull together and, as soon as possible.
I think so. I think if you just gather information minus a proposal, I mean, that would be a little bit more involved. But come back with a recommendation, and we'll give you the authority to go do that, and we'll start the process. And
Okay.
we'll get that. Is that clear?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Any other discussion on that issue?
Good.
Then that concludes our open session. We'll be going into closed session now. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session in accordance with GS 143.318.11A6 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's,
Yeah. This is the last item on the list
We're
tonight.
taking a quick break.
Yes.
Yeah.
we can-
Yeah, this is the last item on the list
Make a
tonight.
phone call. Out there with,
Apologize, there's a little